Winter is here. Well, it's finally arrived. Final season of Game of Thrones. The premiere episode of Season 8 shows back. I've got a shirt that Liz gave me for my birthday. So, a little bit later than I planned, but I have now seen Winterfell, first episode of the new season. It's a little dull. Now, I came out, I suppose, of having watched it, thinking that, and I didn't want to just come back and just spit that out. So I've been spending the last couple hours before shooting this actually trying to think, why do I feel that, and is it justified? And here's where I'm landing. I do kind of stand by that impression. This premiere episode is a little dull. And there's a couple of reasons for that kind of can't be helped. Actually, if you go back, a fair number of early, if not first episodes of most seasons are a little dull, including Season 1. But Season 1 got away with it because it was still setting up everything. But the premiere episodes tend to be a lot of housekeeping, a lot of here's where everybody is, and here's us moving them to where they need to be so we can get the story really properly kicked off. First episodes for this show don't usually open big and bold. They're about moving the pieces into the right place. So that's the first thing, and I'm not sure there's a huge way around that. The other thing that the episode is stuck doing is basically catching up a bunch of characters on stuff we, the audience, already knew, i.e., a whole bunch of characters re-encounter someone who they haven't seen in a while, and in many cases thought was dead, and now, and of course, we've known they've been alive, or, the stuff about, I was going to say spoilers, except this came out last season, so, I'm going to talk spoilers in these reviews, just know that. The whole thing with Jon Snow's parentage, the fact that he's actually a Targaryen, we, the audience, already knew that. We got to catch them up. So it can also be a little bit dull when you're waiting for the characters to figure out what you already know. Now, those are the things that can't really be helped. But I think there's a little more than that going on as to why I kind of felt like this was not, boring's too harsh, but didn't thrill me. And I think another thing is, what's left to be done, I don't find engaging in the way that the best of the show has been. Because as much as the overall threat of the Night King, the White Walkers, that's always been hanging over things, and that was always a good thing to have in the background as the sort of Damocles kind of hanging over everything. Most of the threats that aren't that are gone. And the ones that are still around aren't in the location where everyone else is. So, at this point, basically the major threat that isn't the White Walkers is Cersei. Now, I suppose you could also consider Euron, because he's kind of aligned with her at this point. But it also takes some of the tension out of it to know that they are physically on the other side of the continent. So, I think in some ways, it's, in terms of keeping things interesting as we build to what I'm sure will be an epic, climactic, actual fight with the Night King and everything else, the things that could be going on to keep things interesting as we get there, there isn't a lot at play right now. So, dealing with characters like Ramsay Bolton, like Littlefinger, that was really good for keeping things interesting while we're, keeping things ticking over until we get to the really big fight that's going on. But they're all off the board now. And I also kind of worry a little bit because I'm not sure that dealing with the Night King can possibly be as cathartic as something like the death of Littlefinger. Because, yeah, that felt good. Maybe if they do Cersei, right? Because there's no way Cersei lives through this. No way. So when she eventually dies, that could possibly be cathartic. And for my money, I've said this before, I'll say it again, Jaime's gonna be the one to kill her. But having done things in reverse order, having done my complaining and my worries up front, there was still stuff that I really enjoyed here. Some of the reunions of characters were really nice. Arya, I think, had the best ones. I think hers with Jon was really good. Her and the Hound, her and Gendry. Was she flirting with him? Seemed like she might have been. In any case, Arya's just got great chemistry with, like, everybody. Sansa and Tyrion, that was actually a pretty cool reunion, too. I had forgotten how long it had been since they'd seen each other. So that was cool. I like that. I kind of, as much as, like, I'm over the show's, completely unnecessary nude scenes, I did kind of love Bronn with his 3 women, just trying to have fun, and they want to talk to him about fighting a dragon, and then he's interrupted by the hand of the queen. It's like, oh man, this guy just wants to have a nice life. That's all he wants. Oh, I love Bronn a lot. Lyanna Mormont, she's so tough. Like, I have no reasonable expectation that this happens, but, like, if the Iron Throne even still exists at the end of this, which I don't think it will, I want her to end up on it. But, so she's really good. Sansa, like, I have to give my mea culpa. Sansa has become a really interesting and fascinating character, and one that I'm excited to see. And given that I used to hate her, like, I mean, this is right up there with how I turned around on Barbara on Gotham. Because season 1, I hated Barbara. And now she's like, I'm like, there's never enough Barbara. So, I have to admit that to Sansa. I did Sansa wrong in her earlier appearances. Because she's good. She's really good, and her evolution has been quite enjoyable. Theon actually gets some cool little. I wasn't gonna say redemptive. That's a little preemptive to declare it a redemption. Let's go with redemption adjacent moments with him. Rescuing his sister, and all of that. So as much as this episode is mostly kind of just moving the pieces to where they need to be, I like the pieces, and some of them interact pretty well. Oh, Sam, I had legitimately forgotten that Dany burnt his dad and his brother to an absolute crisp. I'd totally forgotten that, and that actor played that really well. The surprise and then the pain of that. I was impressed. And also, I kind of like the moment they chose to end it on. I like the symmetry of it with season 1. And actually, the episode overall, I'll give a certain amount of cleverness for this. I'm not sure, because like I said, I think the results are slightly dull. I'm not sure it was necessarily the right call, but I kind of appreciate what they were going for. Overall, this episode feels like almost like a poetic reprise of season 1, episode 1, because we open with the armies, the soldiers marching into Winterfell, and younger characters trying to see, and a whole lot of it just talking about who owes allegiance to who's going to support who in what, and what the worries are, and what the history is. And so it's that vibe in both episodes. And then for the fact that season 1, episode 1 ended with Jaime shoving Bran out a window, and this episode ends with Jaime showing up in Winterfell. And actually, it was really funny because I remember thinking, boy, it's a good thing it's not modern times for him, where like his face would be in like tabloids or on the news or whatever. Probably no one's going to recognize him as long as he keeps his head down. And then he turns around, and there's Bran just staring at him. The look on Jaime's face, the oh shit look. There is a nice symmetry to that, comparing it to the very first episode of the show. And I will be curious to see what happens from here. And I'm hoping it's something good, because specifically with that. Because Laws of Gods and Men might be my favorite episode. That's Tyrion's trial. So I like those kinds of things. And I think there's the potential for that with Jaime being captured in Winterfell. And also there's characters that I'm basically like still waiting to properly touch base with, like Brienne. Like she was just standing behind Sansa, reminding us all how tall she is. I want to see what happens when Brienne runs into the Hound. That's what I'm waiting on right now. But I think we'll wrap it up there. It was by no means an exciting opening. It got the job done. It's not especially memorable. But let's see where they can go from here. So, Winterfell, Game of Thrones, Season 8, Episode 1. What do you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about a whole bunch of other stuff down there, because there's buttons and links and a link to my book, and there's social media, and there's Patreon. Much appreciated. But that's all down there for you to take a look at. But you also don't really have to, because at the end of the day, folks, you're the council. I just run the meetings. So until next time, this council is adjourned.